Welcome to r/Prorevenge, where revenge is best served cold. When I have the time and come across interesting projects or clients, I take on one-off assignments to create websites, graphics, applications, etc. for said clients. I recently had a client for whom I created a website. Their old website looked like it was created in the early 90s, but it drew a lot of traffic, so the need to update was clear. Like always, we first agreed on the scope and design, and my client showcased his competitors' websites for me, explaining what kind of things he absolutely wanted for his site, but better, as he put it. I then had him sign a standard contract and pay a small upfront fee. Everything went smoothly, and I got to work. After the project finished and I sent an invoice to my client, he told me that he won't be paying anymore. During the few days that I had worked, he had watched some YouTube videos about creating websites, and he had come to the realization that he, without any prior experience in web design or programming, could create an equally impressive site in pretty much the same time as I had. And so he didn't feel like he should pay me anything extra. I reminded him of our contract, and he flat out said that I'm free to take him to court, but he won't be paying me. Obviously, I had no intention of taking him to court because it would result in more headache than it'd be worth, but I wasn't just going to let this slide. The website was already live and teeming with visitors, but my client, although they were a newfound web design professional, hadn't realized that I was still the only one who had access to the site's backend, which meant that I could make any changes to the site and he couldn't do anything about it. So I remembered how he had told me about all of his competitors' websites. I figured the appropriate response would be for me to write a script that replaces his company's contact details and opening hours with those of his competitors. Every time the site would load, the script would randomly show one of the competitors' contact details instead. I also made it so that the contact form request would be sent to a randomly selected competitor's email. I chose not to inform my client of this and went on to enjoy my vacation. Within a week, I received several emails and a call about my client's concerns that something was wrong, that he hadn't received a new client through the site in almost a week, even though the site's visitor count is much higher than before, thanks to the new design and improved SEO that he hadn't yet paid for. I let him know what I had done and told him that I would undo it, but it would take me about an hour, for which I would be charging. Since I was on vacation, I'd happily apply the rush fee stated on the contract for that hour. And, of course, I told him that this would all be added on top of the original fee that he owed me, plus interest for late payment. Naturally, this led to insults and threats being thrown in my direction, to which I calmly responded that I'll begin to work once I have the money on my account, and if he doesn't want to lose any more customers to his competitors, he'd best man up quick. He tried to call me immediately, and I just declined the call. After the second attempt to call me again, I sent him directly to voicemail. I received an express payment to my account the very next morning. You moron! Even though you still have the password to my website, which my business completely relies on, I'm not gonna pay you, and there's nothing you can do to make me change my mind. Our next Reddit post is from KindredCocaCola. I originally posted my question on r/relationships on Monday, so for the whole backstory, please click on my profile, but the TLDR is that my Aunt Jay, by marriage, asked me to do several pieces of art for her real estate business. I'm in school, and I'm positive I told her that I would need to be paid. I'm also positive she agreed to pay me. My major mistake was for not agreeing to terms up front, but she still tried to take advantage of me. She was difficult, refused to accept drafts, then hated the finished products. I was out tons of time and money and tried to wash my hands of her. Out of the blue, she wanted me to fly out, on my own dime, to paint her office mural. I said I would have to get paid for my previous work, and she exploded on me and told me that exposure from people like me is great for people like you. And I'm giving you experience. That was Monday. First thing Tuesday morning, I had a meeting with my school's licensing and legal advisor, and she helped me draft a letter stating since no legal transfer of ownership had taken place, Aunt J was to cease using any of my work immediately. We also wrote up an invoice for my time, materials, and shipping up to that point, with a very friendly 15% family discount, and that if Aunt J were to work out a payment plan, she could continue using the finished pieces. I emailed them to her. I was very sincerely trying to handle this like an adult and not involve my parents or my uncle, my dad's brother, and Aunt J's husband. But maybe 1.5 hours after I pressed send on the email, my mom called me. It basically went like this. My mom said, "Aunt J just called and completely chewed me out over what an ungrateful brat you are. What's going on?" I explained the situation to her and apologized because I really was trying to handle it myself. She was apoplectic mad and revealed to me that Aunt J had been pulling this kind of BS ever since she married my uncle. Mom really wished I would have called when this first started, and she would have advised me to avoid ever doing anything with her. I said I was sorry that I was in so deep, but I felt like I was handling it okay. My mom asked if it was okay if she got involved. I said that was okay. Aunt J got her real estate license last fall and had been telling my uncle that she was a lock to be a franchisee, or whatever you call it in real estate, for a nationwide real estate company. I'll just say Promax. My mom called a local Promax office and asked who she should talk to because one of their agents had commissioned several $1,000s worth of professional promotional materials and was refusing to pay. She was put on the phone with whoever was the highest ranking agent in my hometown, who was incredibly confused because all the local offices were under his guidance and they had a promotional materials contract with a local graphic design company. My mom gave him Aunt J's name and holy cow. Aunt J was using this multi-million-dollar real estate company's name and materials when she wasn't even part of the company. I mean, this is a huge deal and she could literally be facing years of legal trouble. And since real estate licensing is a fairly small world in our state, she is almost certainly going to lose her license if Promax pursues her. I honestly don't know enough about real estate to know how, or even if she was making this work, or if she was just biding her time until the franchise did come through. I have no idea. Maybe her scam wouldn't have been figured out if she just paid me. But it gets even deeper than this. Aunt J had just bought a huge new Cadillac Escalade over Christmas, and since she said it was for work, she told my uncle that Promax was helping her finance it. My dad called my uncle, his brother, to let him know what my mom had found out as a heads up. My uncle freaked out because obviously if she wasn't part of Promax, then she wasn't getting generous financing terms from Promax on her new $80,000 car. My uncle ran his credit and it looks like Aunt J had taken out 2 credit cards in his name and maxed them out. He thanks for the down payment on this car. So not only was Aunt J screwing me over, she was in a roundabout way stealing using the established name of a multi-million-dollar company. But she committed identity theft against her own husband too. And now she's been exposed because she refused to pay me. My uncle told my dad that he's known that last straw has been coming for a long time, and this was more like a last log. He's contacting divorce attorneys immediately in case Promax decides to pursue real legal action against her. He's going to have the lawyer advise him on what to do about the identity theft. Basically, Aunt J is screwed in every way imaginable. I've never been one to gloat, and I always take pity on people who are having a hard time. I'm not this time. My favorite thing about this story is that usually when you come across a choosing beggar, it's the person who's trying to sell something that the choosing beggar is trying to exploit. So all you get is like this little snapshot of like a short conversation of what the choosing beggar is actually like. But this story gives the full profile of how disgusting choosing beggars really are. She's a liar, she's a thief, and she's a con artist. Our next Reddit post is from Mealwyrm. I started renting a house about 5 years ago. I had always lived in apartments and I was excited to finally have some space and privacy. This was ruined within the first week by my butthole neighbor, and he made my 4 years at that house miserable. He's in his late 40s or early 50s, and despite seeming like a fully functioning adult, he has never lived outside of his parents' home. He spends every possible minute cleaning or admiring his truck, so he practically lives in his driveway. When he isn't bragging about some butthole move that he just pulled on someone, he's hitting on the wives and daughters of anyone on the street. I moved in during the winter and started noticing footsteps in my yard in the morning. I found out that he was walking into my yard to look in my windows and see what I was watching and playing at night. I bought a simple security system and put up a few cameras up, and this stopped. Then he started mowing my side yard. He would mow it the day after I did. I asked my landlord about this and was told that Mike, the creepy neighbor, considered it his property and kept arguing about the property line. It's just grass, so I let it go. If I had guests over, he would stare at them and sometimes make comments when I wasn't around to hear him. If I was in the backyard, he would have a reason to be in his backyard. If I was in the house or the front yard, he was in his driveway where he could see in my living room. If I was mowing the yard, he would get out a lawn chair and sit and watch, putting it away as soon as I was done. It came to a head when I caught him sending his dog into my front yard one morning, instead of letting it out into his fenced-in backyard like he normally would. I told him to stay on his side of the property line, and he said that he was going to break into my house and smash my cameras and computer. Cops were called, and he got off with a warning. Last fall, I told my landlord that I was going to move out. During the conversation, I found out that Mike was on workers' comp for an injury that he got at work, and that he was now bragging about how he was using his workers' comp check to set up his own under-the-table landscaping business. My landlord, like most of the neighborhood, doesn't really like Mike. The landlord's son and family live across the street, and Mike has hit on the wife a few times over the years, and has started to try talking to their 17-year-old daughter. I waited for a day when he had his new work truck and trailer with his name and number on the door, and I made a video of him working on his yard and carrying 50-pound bags of mulch and climbing ladders. I sent videos and pictures to the fraud department of the workers' comp office. Today, I just found out that he was found guilty of fraud, ordered to pay back every dollar, and may end up in jail. I am happily living in a new place that has a lot of land between me and the neighbors. In this case, it sounds like crime does pay. Our next Reddit post is from StevenFN. Within the last 6 months, a new company came to the area, and they are primarily a West Coast company. Essentially, my job is to process the company's bills and take calls from customers in the downtime. Since I'm taking calls, I'm subject to the quality assurance reviews on my calls and get a bonus depending on how well I do. All month, I've been doing fantastic on the reviews, set to get max bonus when my final QA review comes through. They marked me down significantly because I used the word okie dokie, which is relatively common in my area. They claimed that it was jargon or slang and that I should avoid those words. Now, I generally change how I speak depending on the call in order to sound nicer towards customers. And in this call's instance, I used it because I was talking to a sweet older woman who even complimented me for using the word. After disputing it and getting the dispute denied, I instantly changed how I talked on the phone to the highest standard of professionalism I could do. Now, fun fact. When someone is upset regarding an issue, speaking like you're in a meeting with the president not only confuses them, but angers them as well. This week alone, I have made people cry, scream, and more just from talking as properly and as professional as I possibly could. I've also had a handful of complaints for seeming cold. The quality department manager called me in for a meeting yesterday and said that I should tone down how I talk and change how I talk depending on the circumstances of the call, specifically telling me to use simple, friendly, and language more suitable to the average caller. They then played a call where the agent used multiple slang words to calm the customer down as a perfect example of how a call should be handled. The words from this agent included yep, alrighty, and no problemo. I then brought out a copy of my quality report, stating that not only did I get marked down for doing exactly what they are now claiming is perfectly fine, but that it was very clear that they were marking me down simply to avoid paying me a full bonus. I took what they said in my report to the operations director today, who then had to go back and review all of the quality's monitors on me. They had to write me a check for the missing bonus. The quality manager averts her eyes every time I pass her now. Speaking of quality assurance, I try to read the comments on every single video, so if there's something you want to share with me, comment down below. And don't forget to like this video because it really helps my channel out. Our next Reddit post is from captainAwesomePants. So there's been a brouhaha between Missouri's Office of the Public Defender and the governor's office. Basically, due to budget problems, the public defense budget got cut by 8.5%. They sued the government in July over this. However, the director of the Office of the Public Defender realized that they were empowered by a little-used law, specifically Missouri Code Section 600.042.5, to require any lawyer in the state to represent anyone who needs a public defender. And also, they realized that the governor of said state was a lawyer. This led to this amazing letter to the governor. And I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's pretty long and kinda dense. But if you want to read the whole thing, you can check out the link to OP's post in the description. But to briefly sum it up, the public defender office absolutely rips the governor apart. Then, because the budget is cut so badly, well, actually, let me read this last paragraph for you. As of yet, I have not utilized this provision. The provision he's referring to is the one that allows him to appoint any lawyer he wants, because it is my sincere belief that it is wrong to reassign an obligation placed on the state by the 6th and 14th Amendments to private attorneys who have in no way contributed to the current crisis. However, given the extraordinary circumstances that compel me to entertain any and all avenues for relief, it strikes me that I should begin with the one attorney in the state who not only created this problem, but is in a unique position to address it. Therefore, pursuant to Section 600.042.5, and as director of the Missouri State Public Defender System tasked with carrying out the state's obligation to ensure that poor people who face incarceration are afforded competent counsel in their defense, I hereby appoint you, Jeremiah W. J. Nixon, bar number 29603, to enter your appearance as counsel of record in the attached case. Very truly yours, Michael Barrett, Director. And then he CCs a judge, meaning this is official. Basically, fix our funding or I'm going to legally require you to be a public defender instead of a governor. Update, response from the governor's office. Governor Nixon has always supported indigent criminal defendants having legal representation. That is why, under his administration, the state public defender has seen a 15% increase in funding, at the same time that other state agencies have had to tighten their belts, and full-time state employment has been reduced by 5,100. That being said, it is well established that the public defender does not have the legal authority to appoint private counsel. Well, if that's the case, Governor, why did you give them back their funding and double their funding on top of it? I think it's because you got destroyed. That was r/Prorevenge, and if you like this video, hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit videos.